Hello and welcome to the After Dark podcast. Some themes and topics of this show are dark, disturbing, and in some cases, extremely spooky. Listener discretion is advised. Now, turn off your lights or find a dark stretch of road, and please welcome Gunnar Glenn and Katie Every.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's here, the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm not dead. Please stop asking. This is just our new podcast. I'm joined today by my wife, Caitlin Every.
Oh my gosh, you mentioned my name. I'm so excited to finally be on the podcast.
You were already on the podcast. You were on the Halloween episode. You told me that weird story about how you got possessed.
Me being a possessed child.
Yeah.
Maybe I still am possessed.
Maybe she still is possessed. But anyways, welcome to the After Dark podcast, the only podcast in the world that is as awesome as this one. This is God's favorite podcast. So basically the plan for this show is I love scary stories. I love conspiracy theories. And Katie is kind of new to the game of scary stories. She gets kind of scared. So, together we're going to talk about the crazy stuff going on in the world, the crazy theories, the crazy scary stuff. And if you have scary stories or you have something you want to talk about, please reach out to us on social media.
Love to chit chat about it.
Yeah.
I love talking. I am not a big scary story fan. I love reading them, love listening to them. Hate thinking about them when I'm going to bed at 2 a.m. But no, I love scary stories. If you have anything, reach out. I would love to talk about stuff.
Yes, please reach out to us. We'll have the socials at the end of the episode, or you could email us at litafterdark21@gmail.com. And yeah, so without further ado, welcome to After Dark.
Okay, so am I going first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Everything you see in reality is either something people like to call clipped or no clipped. Things that are clipped are things such as the steering wheel in your car or the phone in your hand or even the earbuds in your ears. Stuff you can touch, stuff you can feel, stuff that is connected to this realm of reality. Things that are considered to be no-clipped are things that lie beyond this realm of reality. Things that, if you touch them ever so slightly, you will be disconnected from the world around you. Think about it as in a video game, where you accidentally touch something, and suddenly you're beneath the world. You can see everything around you, and you are still in the world, but you can't move. You're not dead, but you're not able to live. A place that is very similar to that is called the Backrooms. The Backrooms are a place that are untouched by reality that only very few have been to and very, very few have been able to leave. It's an endless stream of corridors that go on seemingly forever with monsters around every corner that could rip you to pieces in seconds. The possibility of being able to leave the Backrooms is slim to none, and very few have entered them and lived to tell the tale. One way to enter the Backrooms is through a subliminal space in your mind. You can go there during dreams, you can try and shift there, but some of you have had the very unfortunate happening of just ending up there randomly. They've walked through doors without paying attention and closed it behind them only to realize that they would never see the real world again. Others have seemingly touched a wall or touched a coffee cup that wasn't connected to this reality, and just like that, you're in a place you never wanted to be. There are 3 different levels to the Backrooms. The first level consists of, think of it as an office space. Bland yellow walls, fluorescent lights that hum above you, and no one around you. No furniture, no furnishings, nothing except you and the decision between life or death. Level 1 consists of, like I said, bare walls, fluorescent lights, and corridor and door, one after the other, of just an endless bound of nothingness. You can go in one room, door will shut automatically behind you, and once that happens, there's no going back to where you once were. You can't go backwards, only forwards, and sometimes forwards isn't always the best option because you see there are creatures that roam around these back rooms. Some, once you get up to higher levels, are more hostile than others. On level 1, these creatures tend to walk around on all fours. They are beings that have red eyes, things that walk around you when you sleep, things that step around you when you don't want them to. The ones on the first level tend to be less hostile than others. If you were to encounter one, it has been said that you simply can just back away and try not to make eye contact and simply go on your way through another door into the endless corridors. Once you reach a place such as level 2, like I said earlier, they become more hostile. The way to get to level 2 is unknown, though. You just happen upon it. Say you're walking in level 1. You are just going and going and going for days, months, years even. You just keep walking and walking, and then suddenly the walls will start to change. They'll become more gray, more concrete. The fluorescent lights will start to become more dim. They'll flicker more. They will start changing, and all of a sudden the surroundings around you are different. Not much different from level 1, but different enough you notice. You see, in level 1, there is no night. It is just constantly day. There's no light. It's just the fluorescent lights, and they're constantly on. It's just that constant hum of fluorescent lights. Whereas in level 2, there is flickering. The lights will go on and off. Sometimes, for what is like a power outage, they'll go on, they'll go off for a long, long time. And then they'll flicker back on for a while, and then it'll just repeat after the other. Some have said that you'll hear things move around in the dark, that if you hear footsteps in the dark, that you shouldn't follow them, that if you hear things in the dark, you shouldn't move at all. If you do move, well, then you'll be followed, you'll be hunted by these creatures. If you don't, though, you'll be safe. Others have said that there's no hope for you at all. If you happen to encounter a creature in level 2, the odds are slim of escaping it, but it can be done because, like I said, they're less hostile than those on level 3. Creatures on level 2 are more tall. They walk around on 2 legs, have long arms, pale faces. Think of it as Slender Men almost, except with these red, beady eyes that just stare at you. These ones, if you were to encounter one, it's kind of the same thing. You can kind of just like walk away from it. But if you were to make eye contact with it, it is a very high chance that it will just chase you, and it will keep chasing you until it either catches you or you somehow escape it. And then there's level 3. Entering into level 3 is kind of the same thing as it was in level 1. There isn't really a for sure way to get to level 3. It just kind of happens eventually. And so what happens with that is you'll just be walking, and then all of a sudden the walls will kind of start to close in a little bit, and then eventually you're just walking in a hallway. Hallways that are almost as if you were walking under like a business or in like a servant's hallway, because there'll be like pipe lining along the walls. And this is when you know you've reached level 3. The lights here almost never work, and when they do, well, the things you see are very unfortunate. It has been said that if you actually do end up making it to level 3, that is your chance to escape, only by the pure, willingness to want to live. But if you happen to make it to level 3 and you just give up, that you're never going to make it. Some say that they have escaped by just having to open a door, and they are miles away from where they started, but they're finally home. Others said they've escaped by touching a wall that's a different color than the other ones, and you either are out or you're all the way back at level 1. Some have said they found elevators, some have said they found stairs. It's just what you find. There's no definite way of leaving, and there's obviously no definite way of entering. The creatures on level 3 are not really spoken of much. There are creatures from level 1 there are creatures from level 2 there. And the creatures from level 3 are kind of a mix of both. They walk on all fours, but when given the chance, they can walk on twos. They can perceive themselves to be human. They can chase after you, and most likely with the other creatures, if you happened upon them, they, would most likely not go after you if you didn't make eye contact with these ones. But with these ones, if you happen to see one, they're immediately going after you, and the chances of escaping them are very, very slim. There's monsters around every corner. It's not a good deal. Some have said, though, that they have entered the backrooms and somehow escaped. The ways I've heard it is that once you enter, you're in. Like, you're stuck. Some have said that they entered in and then realized where they were and just went out the way they came. That if they had been in there longer, they would have been trapped, but it just happened to be that, that they just were able to get out. Others have said that they walked into a room and they were, on their phone, or they just weren't paying attention to where they were going, and they were immediately just trapped in there with no hope for getting out. And then some have also said that they just clipped in. That they ran into a wall, they touched something, and they just were automatically there and just stuck there. So, there is apparently some kind of special government force, though, that is dedicated specifically to getting people out of the back rooms. I don't know how, because it is on a different plane of reality. But apparently what they do is, if on the off chance they do find you, they take a metal rod and they'll place it in between the doors. Because the way it works is once a door closes, that room that you were once in is gone and is replaced by another one. And so apparently by placing a metal rod in between all the doors, you can somehow find an exit, from what I've heard. Anyway, there's a special task force. What they do is they go in and they place this rod down and they go through they go through the rooms that they got to get to you, and then they tell you things such as you were kidnapped, you got lost, you went into a coma, you've been in the hospital this whole time. They'll tell you these things to go tell your family, because your family can't know that you were in this space. One source said that there were men that came, and when they were explaining to him what he should tell his family, that it was almost as if it were Men in Black. That was an actual government thing that came to speak with him. Yeah, just crazy stuff. I'm once I was researching this, I super careful now. When I enter doors, I'm
Same.
okay. I if there's a window in the door, I'm okay, I can see I can't see where I'm going. I don't know. It's just crazy. Crazy.
Mm-hmm. I get off at 5 o'clock in the morning now, so whenever I get home, my house is pitch black. So it's been in the back of my mind, the back rooms and the possibility of it. So I've been having to shine lights through their doorway before I go in.
Well, because what
it's
I heard,
okay, make sure this is it.
if you open the door and you see the back rooms, that if you don't actually walk in and close the door, that you're safe, that you're able to close the door and just walk the other direction, and leave. But some are less fortunate. The way I found out about the back rooms, I was at an art museum with a friend one time, and I was oh man, I have to go to the bathroom. As you do at an art museum. And she was oh, the bathrooms here are really creepy. And I was what do you mean? And she's well, I thought they were the back rooms. And I was what? You lost me. Because I had no idea that this was even a thing. And so I was looking at pictures and stuff like that. And we went in there, and it was if the bathroom, the bathroom, to me felt it was a plane where, there was some kind of thing in there that was a no clip thing, because it seemed if there was a specific item or just even a wall that you touched, that immediately everything in the room would have been gone, but like the wallpaper was like the kind of wallpaper you see in like photos and things like that. Like, I don't know, the vibe was just super creepy, and I was like, ooh, let's get out of here. But what's really interesting though is like a lot of people have said that like they've entered, like they've either like seen, like, wait, so what happened, and which is why the Backrooms really became a thing people started talking about more and started learning more about, was because of this picture that started surfacing around the internet that people all of a sudden just started like recognizing. They didn't know how, they didn't know why, but they just immediately recognized this space. And that is how this theory got started, that there was a space called the Backrooms, which obviously many others have proved through like their stories and their experiences. But yeah, it's just crazy to think that.
I first heard about it on TikTok. Man, I promise you, I learned more stuff from TikTok
Yeah,
than I learned
literally
in
that.
high school. But what it was it was a video of a Halloween store, like a Spirit Halloween, and it's that sound from the like JFK cartoon, the "Nothing bad ever
Nothing bad
happens to the
happened to the
Kennedys," you know.
Kennedys. Ah!
Yeah, it was that sound, but it was all echoey,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And they pull this curtain back, and it's just it seemed like it was miles of just like an empty
Yeah,
JC
no,
Penney
but that's
or
exactly what the
something like
Backrooms
that.
are. Like, it's
And
crazy.
that's like the sort of thing that like
Mm-hmm.
solidified it for me, because like for a while I was like, oh, it's just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
story, like whatever. And then like all of these photos and videos have been coming out of like like now people claim that there's an address in like New York to access the back rooms. Why you would want to,
No,
I don't
I don't
know.
understand why people would want
But
to anyway, because like the way it apparently works is that like once you're in, you're in, and like the chance of getting out is like really, really slim.
mhm. It's
Oh
creepy.
yeah.
It freaks me out. It's always in the back of my mind now, like ever since I heard about it, just because like you feel like you have to be so
Mm-hmm.
careful before
Well,
you
the
enter
chance
like
of
a
actually
new
being
room
put
or
there is super, super slim.
mm,
You know, the chance of finding an object in this reality or a space in the reality that just happens to be a no clip item is super rare. Not saying it doesn't happen though. And sometimes it's just it's like the theory that if you so you heard the theory that like if you put your hand through a wall, like if you like touch a wall enough times, that eventually your hand will go through the wall just because of the way like the atoms line up and stuff like that. And like the chance
mhm.
of that happening is like literally almost none. But it's the fact that there is still a chance of that happening, and that's how like the Backrooms are. Another thing I've seen in it that I've heard is that you can find like there'll be a crack in the wall, or like it could be like a crack in the wall, it could be a mouse hole, could be like a hole in your fence that just happens to be a glitch in the system. And so that if you like
Mhm.
find that that space and you like touch or whatever, that you were put in that space. And so for instance, like okay, so say there was like a mouse hole or something like that, and you find the mouse hole and
Mhm.
you look and you look into it and you like touch it and you're put into the back rooms automatically. You wouldn't really, it's not like you get sucked into it or whatever, but it's just like you look around and then like you're in your room, but there is, there's no shelves, there's no furniture, there's there's nothing. All the windows just look into other rooms. And so apparently if
Mhm.
that is to happen, that's actually one of the luckier moments, because you can apparently, if you find that same spot in your room in which you entered, you can just, possibly exit. But
So would you say that like this maybe buys into the whole Matrix
oh
theory?
yeah. Well, it's really interesting because when I was researching this, a lot of people kept mentioning how like all the other glitches you see like in reality. Which okay, when I first heard about glitches in reality, I was like, oh, it's just people photo editing things. It's just photo edited, it's just video edited. But like when you see
Mm-hmm.
stuff, like there's some video that I just circled the internet of this like plane, like this full-on plane that's just like no, I mean that's just like suspended in the air. And it's just like stuck there. And the
Mm-hmm.
person's like driving by and they're like, oh, the plane, like we thought it was just really far away, but like, no, it's stuck. And like there's, been like videos of like birds that are just like stopped in the middle of the air. Same thing with like doppelgangers. Doppelgangers are super interesting. Do you know what a doppelganger is? Okay, well, for people
Yes, of
who don't know,
course.
a doppelganger is like pretty much a twin. For instance, so say like if I had a twin, but it's a person that I'm not related to in any way, that I most likely probably never met, someone that could live on the opposite side of the world, but we look exactly alike. And the
Mm-hmm.
possibility of that is just super rare. But like again, it happens. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know, the Matrix theory, and the virtual reality theory. All of those are discussions for a different day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
all super interesting though. Cause like, okay, do you ever like have those like moments or whatever where like you look in the mirror and you just kind of like stare at yourself for a while, and then you're like,
Yeah.
"This isn't real."
You almost see yourself
Oh,
blink.
no, I don't, I don't like thinking. Oh
That's never
no,
happened to
that's
you?
never happened to me. But like all the times where like I'll look in my mirror and I'll just kind of like look at myself for a little bit, and I'm like, "This isn't real. Like none of this is happening.
Yeah.
This isn't real."
You
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
recognize yourself.
Yeah, you look at
That's
yourself
another
long
thing
enough,
that
and you're
happens
like,
sometimes.
who is this? That's not me. This isn't, no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And that's where like there was one time I was doing that though. Like, okay, so I used to be like really, really skeptical about like, like the Matrix theory, the virtual reality, I guess it's not virtual reality, it's the simulation theory and all that. Like I was like super skeptical about it. I'm like, no, there's no way. But it wasn't until I had that moment that I just started researching everything. I was like, well, maybe. I don't know. Same thing. Okay, because like the simulation thing also makes sense, and like I said, we'll dive more into it at a different time. But like, someone mentioned like the game, like the Sims game, and they're like, do
Mm-hmm.
you ever just like do stuff, and then you're like, wait, for instance, you enter in a room and you just completely forget why you're there, and a lot of people look at that and they're like, oh, you just forgot. But it's like, okay, but like, I don't know, for how often that happens, it's just super interesting though. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
People do forget things. That's a thing, obviously, but I don't know. I'm not saying, the
With
simulation is a thing. I'm not saying the Matrix is a thing. I'm just saying it is a possibility. You know?
Here's why I don't believe in it. Um, I mean, for one,
Oh
I'm a
yeah,
I'm a
yeah,
Christian.
yeah.
But like two, this is like the hard line for me. This is why I don't believe in the Matrix, because there was a period of time where I say it was like a midlife crisis at 13. I had like an existential crisis. I talked about it on podcasts before, where I felt like nothing was real. I felt like God wasn't
Mm-hmm.
real, like stuff like that. But essentially, for a period of time, I thought absolutely nothing was real. It was just my consciousness out in the void. You know what I mean? And that's
Oh
so
yeah.
scary. I hated that thought. But a lot of people believe that way, because there's really nothing to prove
Yeah.
that it's not. Um, but of course, like, got out of that. But anyways, the people that really believe in the Matrix, or like really think that this is like not real, are the people who are like winning at life. Like Elon Musk, for example, he said that the one question that he has is what's outside of the Matrix. Well, if I were digging tunnels under Los Angeles and blasting off
If I
rockets
were
into
blasting
space, I
cars
would
into
think that I'm
space,
living
I
in a
too
video
would
game
think,
too.
what are we doing here? Who am I?
Yeah, because
Oh yeah.
that's not reality, but it happened to work out for him on that case. So yeah, he thinks he's living in
Mhm.
in a virtual reality. Meanwhile, I make tires for a living. I go in
And
for
see, that's the
12-hour
thing.
shifts.
That's the thing.
If
Do you watch Rick and Morty? Yeah. So,
yes, I love Rick and Morty.
did you see like the simulation episode? Oh, wait, one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
But I think it touches on it really well because Rick, you have Rick, and he's obviously this person, super smart, super intelligent. He can tell when something's a simulation. He's like, it's a simulation inside a simulation, Morty. And then you have Morty, and Morty starts to kind of catch on to things. At first he's like totally oblivious, but then he kind of catches on. And then you have what's the dad's name again?
Craig.
No, it's Jerry.
Oh yeah, Jerry. Why did I think it was Craig?
What is another white male name? Craig.
No, Jerry was the name of the fake dad in the episode whenever like all the fake characters showed up and they couldn't tell who was who.
Yes.
Are you sure? Okay.
No.
I really thought he was Craig.
Anyway, but then you have Jerry in the simulation, and I think Jerry's made the episode so funny, because Jerry just has no idea, and everything around him is like obviously glitching, obviously he'll talk to somebody, it's just like a one-word answer, and it's just like super random stuff, and Jerry's just so immersed in this reality. He's like, oh yeah, no, and he totally believes all of it. But I'm saying how like we were saying, to me, I don't know, it's crazy. Because like you just said, like Elon Musk, like of course, if you have billions of dollars, and you're the one calling the shots on how much people make, if you're up there with the people that call the shots for the rest of us, of course you're gonna start feeling superiority. You're gonna start feeling like you control things. You're gonna start feeling, as they call it, a God complex. And so then, of course, you're going to be the one that questions reality because you think that you decide reality. Whereas, people like you and me who work, I work a less than minimum wage job, you work in a factory, you're not going to question reality because, there's no point to, this is the reality you're in. Why question it when this is, where we are in life?
Because if this were a video game, whoever's controlling my life is obviously like very bored. Because like
another day working at the tire factory.
Because who would on their during their free time want to control a life like this?
That's
you know what I mean?
Like theory, is kind of, I don't know. It's just that's personally, I don't believe in it. It's not my deal. But yeah,
I don't believe in it either. I don't think it makes them like. There's like statistics, but then again, it was Elon Musk that said this. He said like, it's more likely that we live in a simulation than it is for us to not live in a simulation. But like,
it's more likely, it's more likely for it to rain today than it is to not rain. When there's
but once again, it was
when there's
Elon
obviously
Musk.
gray clouds in the sky, and you're like, will it rain today? Maybe. There's a high, there's more of a chance of me living today than there is dying, but I don't know. That's a really dumb quote. But Elon Musk, they really said, okay, so what do you want to put on your tombstone? And he was like, let me think. There's more of a chance of us living in a virtual reality or in a matrix reality than there is a reality.
I think you said it on the Joe Rogan Experience too, which like makes it so much funnier to me because like he's a stoner, Joe Rogan's a stoner. Like, imagine the type of talk that would come out if you and I got stoned together and started talking about like the simulation theory. Then we'd be like, bro, we live in a simulation. Of
course you would. If you're, if someone's tripping on acid, and then you'd be like, oh, look at that dragon. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, look at the dragon. Like they're gonna see a dragon and then be like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
In an altered state of mind, anything makes sense.
I don't know.
Man, we really just went down the rabbit hole on like an episode that we were gonna do.
We might do the Matrix eventually. Dodge into the Matrix.
Yeah, we just dive like we started off with the
Yeah, I mean
Backrooms
they're
and
all
dived
really,
into the Matrix and like
similar. I mean it's a similar thing though. It's just the thought of is there realities beyond our own, you know? Mhm.
let me ask you this. So in the Matrix, at the very end, there's the red pill and there's the blue pill. The blue pill, you wake up. In the red pill, with the red pill, you're guaranteed a happy life inside of the Matrix, but you'll never know that you're in the Matrix. But if you take the blue pill, you wake up, you're on your own. There's no
Yeah.
guarantee that your life's going to be easier
Hmm.
or harder or anything. Which pill do you take?
I think it would depend where I am in life. You know. Okay, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, if I was offered the pill right now in my life, I think I would honestly take the red pill. The one that makes you stay. Just because I'm pretty content
Mm-hmm.
with life right now, you know? And, who's to say what would be happening in
Mm-hmm.
5 years? But hey, if I take that red pill, I know I'll be happy in 5 years, And I'll never know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the blue pill, I think if I was at a really low point in my life where I wasn't having it anymore in this reality, then yeah. Then why wouldn't you go to a different
Mm-hmm.
reality where everything is real? Unless it's a simulation
Yeah.
inside a simulation. It's a matrix inside of a matrix.
To me, I almost fear the like 12
The
Monkeys
what?
theory where like he takes the red pill.
Uh-uh.
You've never seen 12 Monkeys? That's a completely different
Dives
episode.
into that as well.
It's yeah, it's like time travel and like virtual reality, Vin
Hmm.
Diesel. It's crazy.
Hello, Gunner. Hello.
I got a phone call that I had to decline.
Dude, I thought it was me.
Oh no. So
I was like,
anyways,
hello.
the 12 Monkeys movie is like virtual reality, time travel whatsoever. But anyways, a character ultimately decides to stay in a virtual reality, like something that's not real. He decides to stick with it because he meets a girl and he doesn't want his future with her to be uncertain.
Mm.
And that is essentially what would like keep me in the Matrix, or like that would give me the red pill because
Yeah.
you don't want that future to be uncertain.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you told me, "Hey, I'm going to give you either a pill where you'll know everything's real, but you'll be on your own. There's no, if you were to die immediately once you get there, that's on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or you're told, "Hey, you're going to be happy. Like none of this is going to be real, but you'll never know the difference
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be happy doing it."
Mm-hmm.
Then what's the harm in that one? Especially if you're content with life. And even if you're not content with life, you'll know that you'll be happy in life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And then like another theory is that AI already advanced and trapped all of us in a virtual reality. And the reason I think that's a load of BS is because right now AI is a big threat.
mm-hmm.
Like everybody's afraid of AI.
Mm-hmm.
If we were living in an
Wait,
all
can I stop you for a
Yeah,
second?
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was at my boyfriend's aunt's house yesterday. And whenever you think of artificial intelligence, you always think of like those scenes in movies where like the blenders, the washing machines take over.
Yeah,
So I'm at my
maximum
boyfriend's
overdrive.
aunt's house yesterday, and she has like an espresso machine. She has like an ice machine. She has this like soda stream machine. Always like gadgets and things like that, just like in her kitchen. And I was thinking, and I'm like, no, like this is the house. This is the house where the AI they get too smart, and then all of a sudden, the espresso burns her or something like that. Okay, anyway, continue. I'm sorry, I had to get that off my chest.
That's funny. But why if we lived in an artificial intelligence matrix, wouldn't they like not put themselves in the Matrix because they wouldn't want us to find out that we live in their Matrix. So like, does that make sense? Like, it wouldn't make sense
Yeah.
for
So
us
like
to be in their
if okay,
Matrix.
so yeah. So if this were so say this entire thing was a simulation, right?
Mhm.
Then why get to a point if you can truly control everything in the simulation, then why make the simulation exist in it?
Mhm.
Because that's only going to make for instance, the Truman Show. Truman Show is a wonderful example of simulation of, you know, just society and reality.
Mhm.
You've seen the Truman Show.
Yeah, it'll freak you out if you're not careful.
Oh yeah. Do you ever do that though? Like you're like sitting there and you're like, like with a loved one or something like that, and you're like, what if this person's just a paid actor?
Yeah.
What if I'm just the main character and everyone else is living around me? And then I think, and I'm like, wait, and I'll be with someone else, and then I'm like, what if they think I'm an actor in their reality? What
Yeah.
if they think I'm just acting?
Mhm.
Anyway, um, yeah, like with the Truman Show, they were never gonna they would never show him like TV in the Truman Show, Like,
Yeah.
in order to make the Truman Show stay the reality it was for him, you would never show him something that would make him think any differently,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that one girl said something that he thought differently. Which is exactly why. Like you wouldn't show him like a TV show to make him think, what if I'm in a TV show? You
Mhm.
know? I don't know. That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
'Cause
I saw this really interesting theory the other day. Saying that if we are in a simulation, the most smart thing that someone did was creating humans,
Mhm.
because say that we are in a simulation, that their entire they made humans in order to distract ourselves from the fact that it could be a simulation.
Mhm.
So why some people are like, what if we're in a simulation? Others are like, oh, what if what if the Illuminati's a thing? What if the government's doing that? What if, people are being, what if they're lizard people? What if the Earth's flat? So one
Mhm.
person's thinking that there's a million other conspiracy theories out there. And so then therefore people are just going to be like, if you were to mention simulation, people are going to be like, oh no, that's just a conspiracy theory. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I thought that was an interesting take on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. There's so many, I don't know, but there's also things that man, we're just going down the rabbit hole at this point because there's so many things you could say about the Matrix, and we weren't even gonna bring it up in this one. We're still talking about the Backrooms.
Yeah. Backrooms are just crazy.
Man, what was I gonna say about the Backrooms? I was about to backtrack onto that.
Backtrack on the Backrooms.
Backtrack on the Backrooms. Heyo.
It's like a cool diss track. Oh, about to, yo, about to backtrack on the Backrooms.
Man, that would be insane if you and I just dropped a diss track on the Backrooms.
Right here, right now. Your reality's augmented. You could have end up in a bad place. Word.
Word.
I can
Yo.
remember.
Oh man.
Give me a
That's
beat.
the return of Milky White. Is you, me, Brandon, and Cassidy. We do
the band that never was.
Man, that band had so much potential.
Yeah. You can cut this out of the podcast, but so for the music we're doing right now, we're doing a show called Bright Star.
Mm-hmm.
And so pretty much we were supposed to do a spring play, and then Butcher was like, yeah, I'm actually retiring this year because I just felt like it. And we're like, okay. And so he's like, yeah, since we didn't really get a fall musical, we're going to do a spring musical. And we're like, okay. So we're in this show called Bright Star. You should come down and see it if you
I'll
can.
try.
It's May 6th through the 8th.
Yeah, I won't be able to make it.
Cool.
My sister's graduating.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we can't like corn because corn's doing a million other things, like isn't helping out with it.
Mm-hmm.
Then he was like, Caitlin, do you want to be one of our music, like our vocal directors to help everybody learn music because we don't have corn doing it? And I was like, oh yeah, totally. But I can't play the piano, and so I have Brendan playing the piano for me. So then I was like, haha, it's Milky White, except it's not.
It's Milky White minus 2 members.
Yeah, and we're not even making music. We're just teaching other kids music. But yeah, Brendan's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, that I was mentioning.
Anyways, yeah. The Backrooms. Do you believe in them personally?
Personally, I think it's one of those things where I don't want to believe in it because I don't want to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want to think that one day I could walk into a room and then like die from like what lives there, and like just be in a space that I could like possibly never return to my family and things like that. Like to me, that's terrifying. You know, it's like when people think of heaven and hell and they just choose, you know, not to think about it because the thought of eternity is really freaky, and we're not going to get into that. But anyway, do I personally believe in it? Probably going to be a no from me. Just because I'm much more content not believing in it and believing that I am in the reality I'm in, that I am to believe in it and think that one day I could just be taken from everything randomly. So what about you?
Here's how I look at it. With all of the dimensions and realities that do exist in the world, and they all kind of take place at the same spot, well, we have 5 senses to experience this with. So I think that there's definitely more to the universe than meets the eye, which leads me to think maybe the Backrooms are another dimension. Somehow people have slipped between the cracks.
Different reality.
Yeah.
Well, because wait, different realities do exist. You know, I talk about this when I talk about time travel a lot, and why I don't think time travel is a possibility. Because in order for time travel to be a possibility, there would have to be a different area of time for you to go to for every second, every millisecond, every decision of every person every day. Lots of different realities. And I think being able to navigate between those realities is just something that we as humans will never be able to do. But different realities do exist. And, you know, we've been learning more about that through people doing this thing. Have you heard of reality shifting?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something I recently, you know, over quarantine, found out about and just like dove into research on that. And just after hearing people talk about it, like it sounds like a legit thing that people are able to do subconsciously. And so I think, you know, could the Backrooms exist? Yeah, of course, in a different plane of reality. Being able to access them, I don't know why you'd want to. You know, is that a place you could go? Yes, but do I think that you'd be able to shift there automatically and be trapped there? No.
I think for example, it's like that theory of the like you can stick your hand through a wall for me.
Yeah.
Where there's the odds of it happening are just so slim. But I do think it's a possibility.
Yeah, and that's especially why I mentioned that earlier. Is it a possibility? Of course, you know, in some magical way, the atoms could just happen to line up and your hand could go through the wall. That is a possibility. But, you know, the possibility of someone doing that over and over again and it actually happening, I don't think is something that, you know, would actually happen.
Because there's also a ton of people who just went missing and have disappeared without a trace, you know, like never been found.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then there's also the man who was skiing in New York and he wound up somewhere in Canada, like hundreds of miles away from where he was, and he didn't remember how he got there.
Really?
You know, like to me, I feel like some of these cases could be interdimensional travel.
Oh yeah, I've heard people on the internet all the time. They'll be like, "Yeah, one day I was just hanging out with some people. there was a story this one guy heard, and he was saying how like one day he was just hanging out with some friends, and then all of a sudden there was kind of like an earthquake almost that happened, or something happened, and I think he was like driving in a car, and the car got in a wreck, and whenever he came to, he was just in a different plane of reality. Like he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't where he was originally,
Yeah.
which I think is super interesting and just
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Yeah. Um, and there was another one that was very recent, actually. A Twitch streamer took a pill,
Mm-hmm.
like while he was live streaming. He takes a pill, knocks out, and he wakes up 2 hours later. And he claimed that he had been gone for 12 years and that he started a new family and like he had like this life in his dream essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like really distraught over losing it
Well,
all.
no, because that's exactly which. Okay, so again, like I said, I really like took a deep dive into reality shifting, and that's exactly like I really want to try it, but at the same time, I'd be super afraid of like making not getting stuck because there's not a way to get stuck there. But like
Mm-hmm.
making connections because people will shift like for years when really it's a couple
Mm-hmm.
hours here. But they'll be like 1 hour here is like a year there, and
Yeah.
people will shift for hours. And like there was one girl I saw, and she shifted somewhere, and she came back, and she's like, "It's been 4 years." Like
Mm-hmm.
she was there for 4 years, and I'm like, how? I don't even know how you could even do that. Like I have like
Yeah.
I trip out when I have a dream, and I feel like the dream is like a day long. I wake up and I'm like, "Whoa, that was a really weird dream.
Mm-hmm.
That felt like it went on forever." Like I can't
Mm-hmm.
imagine thinking that being in a different plane of reality for what you think is like years and what you think is true, and then coming back and you're like, "Oh, whoa, that's crazy."
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look into that Twitch streamer. That's super interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but they were talking about it on a different podcast I listened to. It was some sort of pill. I want to say it was like ecstasy or something like that. But
So
he
it
took
was.
that and knocked out, and then just like woke up and was like, "It's been 12 years." Like,
Yeah, I don't know, and it's what makes it so hard though is like people make stuff up all the time to get
mm-hmm.
attention. Not saying that's what he was doing. Not saying what any of these other people said that they're doing. Um, but it's always just a thing. Like until it happens to you, and until like you've gone through it, you can't prove or disprove it.
Right. And I've of course like heard Reddit stories too, like read on Reddit because you could believe everything on Reddit.
Oh
Um,
yeah, it's a nice reliable source of news.
I've heard stories of people falling asleep, and whenever they're asleep, they'll be gone for years too, and they have like these different lives. Like there was one who fell asleep and woke up as a homeless woman, and essentially like had like a miscarriage, and like all these terrible things happened to her.
Uh-huh.
And then she woke up back here, and it felt like it had been years. She felt like she lived a different
I
life.
don't understand.
Somebody else
And
claims that
that
they
goes into the whole theory about past lives, the
mm-hmm.
different planes of reality, because you never know, you could have just like gone to a different reality and somehow ended up in the subconscious of somebody else. um
Yeah.
I don't know, it's all just crazy and super whack to think
Mm-hmm.
that what we're living in is just like one of yeah, oh
Billions,
yeah, yeah.
trillions
And then you
even.
think of like
It's
it all plays in like the butterfly thing where it's like, oh, this one decision you make like in a different reality could be like a life or death decision.
That's where I think the Mandela effect comes to play,
Yeah.
is the like butterfly effect, or like the time traveling butterfly effect, where like
Back to the Future.
that that's what would make the most sense to me when it comes to like the Mandela effect, is like all of these people believe they remember certain things being a certain way, however they weren't that way.
Yeah.
So like that sounds like the butterfly effect to me, where if you go back in time and I go to the day that Katie was born and I step on an ant whenever I get there, or like I do something small when I get there. We come back and Katie has brown hair instead of red hair.
Yeah.
Like it's little things that change little things, and I think over time, that's how they grow.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, you don't really think of that in life right now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're waking up in the morning and figuring out what to wear, you're not like, oh, what I wear today is going to affect my life, but it could affect somebody else's. You
Exactly.
know, you could,
Exactly.
you know, you could wear something. Say you wear, I don't know, you wear whatever you want to wear, and then someone, you know, walks by you and they're like, man, that's super cool. I want to wear that. So then that person decides to wear something similar to it, and then, you know, and then someone, you know, someone does the same thing to them. It just becomes this chain of people who are, you know, wearing something else you're wearing. And that's why social media too is super interesting nowadays. Because, you know, you see a million faces a day, you see a million different lives a day, and how your life
Mm-hmm.
could impact others. You know, for instance, this podcast. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if people listen to it, when people listen to it, you never know how that's gonna affect somebody. Someone could, you know, listen to
Yeah.
this and then realize that maybe they had an experience in the back rooms, that they had an experience in a different reality that they didn't even know about.
If that is the case, please reach out to us.
If you have
Please.
been to a alternate plane of reality, I will give you. I was gonna say $5, but again, people make stuff up. So I will give you.
I'll give you
I'll give you my
$5.
genuine. I will give you my genuine time and interest to hear your story. Yeah, so we're gonna tell your story, and then, you know, we'll get into my story, and then it'll
Yeah.
be a done deal. Here we are,
Alrighty.
minutes later.
All right. So as I tell this next story, what I want you to do as the listener is I want you to imagine yourself as the protagonist. I want you to think about what you would do in this situation, how you would react, and just really think of things from his point of view. Without further ado, here is Dear David. So, Katie, our story actually begins in August of 2017. That's funny to me because that's around the time that you and I met. So, like, just thinking about this situation, like the timeline of the story and like the timeline of what was going on in my life around this time, I don't know, it just makes me laugh. So, anyways,
Laugh too.
our story begins. Oh, what?
Nothing. Nothing.
Our story begins in 2017 on Twitter when a BuzzFeed writer named Adam Ellis tweeted out, "So my apartment is being haunted by the ghost of a dead child, and he's trying to kill me." Adam first explains that he first saw this little boy during sleep paralysis. He noticed him sitting at the foot of his bed in a green rocking chair next to a big steaming bowl of foreshadowment. That was a joke. I'm sorry. I stole it from Deadpool.
I was like, big steaming bowl of what? And then I was like, oh, maybe that was something else. Just continue.
He also noted that he had a huge misshapen head that was dented on one side, and he feared that he had crossed over into the real world. Um, so Adam then began to become plagued with nightmares where he would be visited by this child with the misshapen head, uh, where he would just stare at him, threaten him, crazy stuff like that. One night, Adam had a nightmare where he woke up and he was in a library when a little girl walked up to him and asked, "You've seen Dear David, haven't you?" And that gave the story its name. Um, this little girl then explained to David she then explained to Adam that David was dead, and she explained the rules to interact with David. Um, and the rules are he only appears at midnight, and you could ask him 2 questions. But if you ask him 3 questions, he'll kill you. What do you think of that, Katie? Katie,
Yes.
did you hear me?
No, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
I said, what do you think of that?
That's interesting. Don't like it.
So the next night, in another dream, Adam found David, and he said, "Dear David, how did you die?" His response: "An accident in a store." "What happened in the store?" "A shelf was pushed on my head." Adam then broke his second. Adam then broke the one rule he was given.
That's what he really said. You're given one
And
rule, and he said, "Well, I'll break it
and
anyway."
he then asked David who pushed the shelf. Realizing his mistake, he woke up terrified. So David didn't kill him, but he woke up and he was terrified. Shortly after, Adam moved apartments to the apartment above his, and the interactions with David actually stopped for a couple weeks until Adam's cats started to act very strange. At exactly midnight, his cats would gather at the front door and stare at nothing. Adam would curiously look out the peephole and see nothing at all, just pitch black. Until one night, he looked out the peephole and he saw something move. This caused him to open the door and turn on the hallway light really quickly, only to find nothing. And for weeks, this happened. He would wake up to his cats looking outside at exactly midnight. Finally, Adam decided to download the sleep app and try to catch something in the middle of the night. The first night of his sleep experiment, he captured 33 sounds, but only 3 of them were interesting to him. The first one sounded like steps, which was odd considering he lived alone and he lived on the top floor of his apartment, so there would be nobody walking around his apartment at night or above him. And then the other sounds happened between 2 and 3 a.m., in which he would capture minutes of just electric static. And then David started to make appearances again inside of Adam's dreams and in the real world. Adam posted a selfie stating that he was leaving his apartment for the weekend, and in the background of the photo, you could see a tiny face in the window. You got to look for it. But he didn't notice it until a follower actually noticed it and pointed it out to him. Later on, Adam bought a Polaroid camera thinking that they were fun and quirky, and decided to take some photos of the front door where his cats were staring. And whenever the photos developed, they were pitch black. In order to prove that he wasn't tampering with the photos, he started to take videos of him taking photos with the Polaroids and then developing black. He also took some test photos where he would cover the lens with his fingers to show that it looked different than how it would look if he were covering up the lens of this photo. So he was basically disproving any theory that anybody would have. But couldn't explain why the pictures were coming out pitch black. After posting these on Twitter, a follower zoomed in on some of the black photos and saw the face of David once again, and they realized it was David because Adam had drawn an illustration of what David looked like. And basically the 2 faces in the photos so far very closely resembled the illustration that Adam had done. So August 14th, Adam used Sage for the first time, and it did not work. David revealed himself to Adam again in a dream that night, sitting in the same green chair as the first time he saw him. Now his sleep app actually recorded about 5 minutes of static every night. On August 18th, Adam had a dream where David was dragging him by the arm through an abandoned warehouse. He was terrified, and he woke up and noticed a bruise on his arm, exactly where David was pulling his arm. The following day, the apartment's building had a parking garage, which was typically packed with cars. And on this day, it was completely empty. Adam walked through it just because he thought it was so weird that it was so empty. And the only thing he found in there was a green chair.
Oh, no.
So he booked it out.
Oh my gosh. I would be I'd so fast. I hate running. I'd be sprinting.
And he has photos of this on his Twitter.
That's so
He has
scary.
photos. Adam's cat started a new routine of gathering at the front door at 10 p.m., crying for exactly 15 minutes. And then Adam would receive several phone calls from an unknown caller. If he ignored them, the phone would keep ringing. But if he answered, they would leave him alone. One night before Adam hung up, he answered the phone, put it to his ear, and he heard, "Hello."
Nope.
So Adam was terrified.
No.
And he hung up the phone.
What's so freaky to me about stuff like that is like you can't just like escape it, you know? Like there's not just like leaving and then being like, oh, it's done. Like that stuff follows you, man. Anyway, continue.
Adam then bought a pet cam to keep an eye on his house whenever he was asleep. But he didn't catch anything until the third night when he noticed a small figure sitting in the green chair in his room. Adam's nightmare started up again. One night he had a nightmare. This one is the creepiest one to me. He had a nightmare where he woke up and he was in his bed and he looked to his left to find a severed head laying next to him.
Nope.
And the severed head was smiling at him. So Adam jumped up and yelled, "What happened to you?" And the head responded, "It feels great."
I hate that. I hate that.
Adam then goes on a trip to Japan in order to escape the haunting for a little bit. To where, while in Japan, he finds a statue of a child with a dented head, very much resembling David.
Okay.
When he got back, David stopped appearing in his dreams and the cat stopped acting weird until one night Adam was walking to his fridge in the middle of the night when he looked out the window and he saw a figure standing on the roof of his building staring into his window. Adam, of course, freaked out, turned off all the lights, and snapped a photo where you could clearly see a small figure standing on the roof.
Sorry, I'm just laughing. Like, beforehand, I was like, is this going to be a scary one? And I'm laying here, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not sleeping tonight.
Well, it's about to get worse. It's about to get worse. So Adam freaks out about how somebody could be out on the roof because he finds out the only way to roof access is through a crawl space in his apartment. A crawl space that he didn't know existed until he finally, found it. He also discovered that there was about 3 feet of empty space in between the roof and his ceiling. And the only way to get to that space was through that crawl space. So one day he borrowed a ladder and his friend went up in there to see if he could find anything.
Green rug.
And he actually found 2 things. The first thing he found was a very old, very small shoe. And are you ready for the second thing, Katie?
You're going to tell me anyway.
He found a green marble.
Oh, well, that's still kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
The shoe, to me, the shoe is more creepy than the marble.
Well, what creeps me out about the marble is the fact that it's green.
It's a green marble.
Well, like, because all of the chairs.
Yeah, all the chairs have been green. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Because David seems to like the color green a lot.
I don't know. The marble's one thing. I mean, you ask yourself, how did this marble get up in the crawl space? I mean, I don't know. Marbles are small. But to me, it's like, to me, it's more the shoe. That's ag. And if we continue, it's like a band aid. I just if you just keep ripping it off, we'll get to the end eventually, and then I can have my existential crisis tonight.
Well, the photos of Adam sleeping began to come online, and David became more and more clear as the story goes on. You could very clearly see what looks like a baby doll, or I don't know. I'll have to send you some of the photos.
Maybe not.
The figure's about 2 feet tall. Looks like a little boy with a misshapen head, and you see him running through the house, running through the apartment, staring at
What?
Adam, looking into the camera. Yeah, I'll have to send you some of these photos. They're very
No, I
creepy.
prefer you not do that. You know, this reminds me of the freaking oh, the Conjuring.
Well, yeah. I'll touch back on that in a
Continue.
second because the story's
Okay.
almost over, and that kind of plays
Okay.
into this. So later on, David went to his family's house for the holidays, and he assumed the hauntings would stop when he left, but instead he woke up one morning, snow had fallen, and there was a series of tiny footprints leading up to his window. When David got home from the holidays, Adam got home from the holidays, his social media went haywire. For example, Adam posted a selfie on his Instagram story with a friend of his, and in the middle of the night, another photo was posted onto the Instagram story that was really warped, really messed up, really freaky. But it was the photo of him and his friend. The next morning, Adam had no memory of posting that anywhere. And then Adam began to tweet stuff very cryptidly, meaning making many people believe that David had possessed Adam. Specifically, he tweeted out, "Everything is fine," as well as some really weird videos of what seemed to be him recording his cats, but his cats look really freaked out. And there's no context behind the videos. Same with just videos of his ceiling. Just really weird stuff like that. And then one day, everything just stopped.
I was waiting for a like a context to why. That's why there was like that. Wait, really?
Everything just stopped. Yeah. And now a movie is being made
A
based
movie's
on.
being made?
Yeah. And the producers of The Conjuring and it are producing
I love
it.
it, but I hate The Conjuring. I've yet to watch The Conjuring. I've watched. Okay, sorry. I've watched it like 3 times. I love it. I refuse.
You love what?
I love it.
Yeah, but what do you
What
love?
is it? We're gonna go see. Do you remember that one time? We're gonna go see it tonight. What is it?
We're gonna see what?
What is it? No, it. The movie It. What movie? Oh God. Okay, what's so weird with The Conjuring though? It's like the same thing. Conjuring is real life story. Same thing with Annabelle. Like you can go visit the Annabelle doll. Something again I will never do. But you know, she's a thing you can go see. I don't know. That's okay. That's so. I never ever heard about that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Huh.
I can't believe you had never heard of
No,
it.
I remember you mentioned it before we started. You know, before we were going, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll look into that. Then I was like, no. I'll wait till Gunnar tells me. Well, I've been on the edge of my seat this whole time. What's weird to me is that it just like stopped.
Exactly. It just stopped.
I don't know. Maybe he had a dream and made some agreement or something like that, or got just all that leading up to though. So not gonna lie, whenever you started telling the story, I went into a different tab and I looked it up, and the first thing that popped up is the drawing and the pictures, and then I was like, oh nope. We're getting into this.
For those of you that don't know, I'll put it on the socials, or Katie will put it on the socials.
Because there's like, you know, all the stuff Gunner's been talking about, like, you know, it is stuff that's out there on the internet. Like you can just go look it up, which is crazy because like the guy,
same with the Backrooms.
you know, the guy, you're not just talking about some random guy. Like, this is like a well-known illustrator, you know, who used to work for BuzzFeed. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Ooh. Did you ever see Paranormal Activity? Yeah, that
Yeah.
also kind of gave me that vibe, like the whole crawl space
Hmm.
thing.
I'm very excited for the movie.
I'm
Because like I
I'm
just
not
don't know
gonna
what
watch
to
it. Well,
expect.
I expected to be a
I.
very similar fashion as to Annabelle and The Conjuring and Paranormal Activity, kind of all rolled into one.
Mhm.
I wonder if Adam will play himself, since he is
That would
kind
be
of like
cool.
a influencer in a way. Be
Yeah.
interesting. God, and then I just always think to myself, like, okay, so I'm gonna kind of skip ahead to the end question if you don't mind. Okay, so
Go for it.
on the question of, do you think this is real? I am a really, I personally, I do believe in ghosts. I believe ghosts, demons, angels. I believe they are all a thing. If you choose to believe that, believe what you will. I believe that these things are real because of, witchcraft. Witchcraft is real. Um, all that jazz. The spiritual realm is a place people astral project to. Like, all these places are real things, in my opinion. People may think differently.
Hmm.
In my opinion, these are just all things that are real. So whenever I hear stories such as this one, I immediately am just like, oh, like, what if that happened to me? Do I think this is real?
Hmm.
Mm, yes and no. Do I think things similar to this have happened to others? Of course. I had a coworker who, we were talking about ghost stuff one time, and she was saying how she had a friend who, she was like taking some pictures of their house because I think they were getting ready to sell it or something like that. And I swear to you, there in one of the pictures, there is if you look, like, she didn't notice it at first, and someone else pointed it out. There is a definite face in the corner of the photo, and I'm not just being like,
Hmm.
oh, it kind of looked like a face. No, like, this is a, like, she showed me the photo. It is a full on, like, ghost face, and I guess they like moved out, obviously. But I'm like, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
that's not my thing, not my cup of tea. If that ever happened to me, I think I would simply just pass away. I could, like, if there was a ghost haunting me, I'd have to be like, okay, I gotta be real here. I can't do this. Like, soon I'll be a ghost as well if you keep doing this. So you're
Personally, I believe the story to an extent.
yeah,
I think that this happened, but I think it's
I agree. Well,
exaggerated.
when you were talking about certain things, for instance, when you were talking about the crawl space, I thought the crawl space was interesting. I thought,
Hmm.
the chair in the parking garage was interesting. I thought, the sleep app, the cats are, and the animals are always interesting when it comes to paranormal things, in my opinion. So who knows? The all the physical evidence to me is really interesting. First of
Hmm.
all, Photoshop is a thing. As we established,
Yeah.
this guy is a well-known, influencer at the time, working for BuzzFeed, a well-known influencer company. Um, so I don't know. But like, you were telling it, and a part of
Personally,
me was like, like, at first I was like super invested, and then I was like, well, is this
yeah.
real? And but again, I go back to, I mean, it does happen to people. Sleep
I
paralysis is
think
a thing.
at the beginning it was real, but like I I don't know, I was believing it up until like the photos of David came out and then like the crawl
Mm-hmm.
space just
Crawl
because
space just
like
seems kind of weird.
it's so
Yeah,
out
like, when you
there.
think of apartment, okay, there's no way that there's no other way to access the roof than the crawl space.
Hmm.
There has to be obviously stairs or something else that lead to a roof. But then it's always the
Hmm.
question too of why. Say this is all made up. Why go to the extent of making it
Hmm.
up? Why Photoshop the images? Why, you know, do how could you possibly make the videos like that, especially with the cats being scared, with the Polaroid? How would you do
Hmm.
that? It you have to ask yourself that, if it is all fake, then, how? Why? Why would you go? faking it.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe just because it gained traction so fast, he decided he had to keep going with it. I do think it is really interesting, though, how it just suddenly ended. I don't know.
Mhm.
Because
It ended, and then he announced that it was going to be made into a movie. So,
oh,
like,
wait. So was it okay? When did it end?
it ended in very early 2018, and then a little bit later, he announced that they were making it into a movie.
That's sketchy. If you had told me like, oh, this just was like a release, like a thing, like last year, then
Mhm.
that's what I figured when you said it. I was like, oh, like they're just not making a movie about this. That makes me kind of want to believe though that he was doing it for promotional reasons, or maybe went to or maybe like you said, it was a real thing, and then maybe he went to BuzzFeed and like start talking about it, and then maybe someone caught on and was like, this would be a great movie.
That's what I think it is. I think it was just exaggerated. And if it is real, then I'll believe him. But if it isn't real, I gotta say my hat's off to Adam Ellis, because if this isn't real, then he put a lot of
Yeah.
work into the whole lore behind it. Specifically the physical photos of David, and for how long he kept up the story behind it. It's really cool. If you haven't read into it, I would highly recommend going and reading the actual tweets.
Yeah, I will.
Because he told this whole thing on Twitter over the span of like 4 months. He did all of this.
Wow. And see, that's where I'm like, I don't know. And a part of me, maybe I just don't want to believe it, It makes me sleep a lot safer at night if I think, oh, he just did this to promote a movie. He's just an artist who, got some people together, photoshopped some things, edited things.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about like 4 months of work, like that's a lot,
Uh-huh. Some of the stuff though is also like, how could somebody come up with something like this? Like the smiling head.
Oh, I
And
forgot about
like
that.
the
Oh, I
death
forgot
of
about that. I
like
forgot about that.
or like the death being like a shelf fell on his head. Like
Flat
how
screen.
can you just come up with the story behind oh
So
my gosh,
sorry.
Katie.
A billboard fell on me. No, I'm flat. Oh, I shouldn't do that. If this is real, he's gonna come after me. I'm gonna like call you tomorrow and be like,
The next episode I'm gonna have a new co-host because David killed
God, please don't
Katie.
joke about that.
It's gonna be like
They'll
Cassidy
be like, what
or
happened? I'll be
Brandon.
like, what if I'm haunted? Oh, I really shouldn't joke about that.
We're
A
gonna
part
be
of me
like,
like
we
kind of
don't
believes
know.
this,
We
and I'm
just
like, I'm
walked
gonna
into
joke about
Katie.
this, and then I'm gonna like see something tonight. Oh God.
We don't know. Katie went to bed in the middle of the night. A shelf fell on her head, and
I am now
we
flat
don't know what
standing.
happened. She's two
Hi,
dimensional now.
Judy. I can be used in a mailbox, okay?
Doesn't that happen? Doesn't he like mail himself to China or something in the book?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's
I just
been like
remember mailing Flat
13
Stanley to
years.
my cousins in Las Vegas. And like I just remember
Yeah.
I always remember like it was like a bulletin board or something that like fell on him. And then he became flat. I'm like, who thought of this?
Mm-hmm.
Who thought, what if there was a two-dimensional boy? How did he get two-dimensional, you ask? A billboard fell on him.
Something big fell on him.
I mean,
That's terrifying.
A shelf fell. Shelf fall, that's a thing.
Mm-hmm. It's just so specific, though.
God.
To give a ghost boy such a gruesome death. Because, like, how many deaths do you hear like that?
Just really random.
I think it could have been easier if you did, like, a different type of death. Like a drowning or an accident.
Yeah, like,
but,
car
like,
accident, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then, like, what also... I guess what also to me seems a little off. Okay, I guess it also depends on the person. If I was told, okay, so if I like had sleep paralysis, if that was a thing I had, and like I'd been seeing this
Mm-hmm.
kid, obviously I'd be like a little worried. I'd be like, oh, who is this? Then I should be worried about.
Mm-hmm.
And then if someone told me, hey, don't ask him 3 questions, then why would you ask 3 questions? You know?
The last thing you're gonna do at that
If
point is ask
anything, you
three
don't want to ask
questions.
anything. Why would you ask anything? I'd be like, I don't want to see
Yeah.
you at all. Get out of my headspace. I don't like you
Mm-hmm.
there. My
Yeah.
headspace is meant for 2 things. My uh cos,
Cosplaying and
oh no, I was gonna
anime.
say oh god, I had something and it was kind of funny. Cosplay is a good one though. Cosplay and being stupid. That's my favorite. Oh no, I was gonna say cosplaying in the Lego Batman movie. Those are my only 2 thoughts ever.
Meanwhile, my head is just continuous TV static.
Except when Ashton's there.
Yeah, I think, but nothing happens.
Funny.
Katie, maybe we should get a third host, and then it'd be like the Three
So, no, we
Stooges,
call
like
it the 3 brain cells.
the Three
Yeah.
Brain Cells. We had to seriously have a conversation about this, like us getting a third member, and then it just be like the three of us telling the scary stories, and it's scary during the stories, and then it's like, do you believe in the Matrix?
Like when you were telling that story, I was like super freaked out, and then I'm like, could it be real? Yeah. I don't know. All that stuff's really weird. Like, I don't know. Another reason I think it's just interesting. Could it be? Could it not be? I think I would genuinely believe it more if the movie wasn't a thing that had been announced afterwards. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if the movie
Yeah.
hadn't been announced until like this year, then yeah, I would totally believe that. I would say, oh, this is something that happened to him, and now they're making a movie. But since the whole thing came out a little bit
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, it makes me think maybe this is more promotional, just because the idea seems like it flew out of the water really fast. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but things that just make it seem weird is like the Japanese statue. That just seems so
Yeah.
random. But like also just like
He tweets a photo of it too, and it looks a lot like the illustration. But this was months after the whole process began
of what?
of
Yeah,
David
that's
appearing
just
in his dreams.
weird. I don't know. And if it is all made up, then like why have the green marble? Why have, the severed head? Why have
Exactly.
all these like little details? Which
Maybe eventually we can get Adam on
oh
here and he could
no.
tell us the
Because
story
then
from
he'd be
his point
like,
of
no,
view
this is
and
real, and I'd be like, I didn't wanna think that.
and if it isn't real, maybe we could pick his
You're
brain
like,
a little bit and find out
well,
what he was
I
thinking.
do need
I
money,
don't
and
know.
that was an advertising option. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but
Because it's
honestly
so
though, if you
interesting.
were, say you're an artist, you're trying to make money in the world, and someone came to you and they were like, hey, we had this idea for this movie. We want you to promote the movie because you seem like you have really good social media influence. We want you to promote this movie, and we will pay you on contract for the next 5 months, 4 months, 4 to 5 months, in order for you, with the help of us, to illustrate and edit this entire story in order to promote our new movie coming out.
But why wouldn't they go to a much higher influencer? Because I didn't know about Adam
Well,
until after this whole thing.
and
Why not go to
yeah, well,
Kylie Jenner
because
or
if it was someone super high up, would you believe it?
I don't know, because that would be a lot of people
Yeah.
believing
And you
it
have
and a
to,
lot of people
yeah,
backing it.
Adam's a lot bigger
Which,
now than he probably was then. You know, but
yeah, I didn't even know about
yeah,
him
but
until this thing. So like that's why I don't think that like it was
yeah.
promotional.
But then, like, if it wasn't promotional, that's so scary.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts I don't like to think about. We're gonna make a list. Number 1, ghosts, sleep paralysis, ability of a ghost haunting me continuously for a long time. That's just all number 1.
So that's gonna be the new theme of this podcast. It was gonna be us telling scary stories. Now it's gonna be me
No,
trying to scare Katie.
no. That's it. I've reached
So in the next
hell. This
episode,
is
I got to come
hell.
up with an even scarier story.
Oh God, no. You know, in the hopes that this ever did, you know, if this podcast ever did like blow up, there's just like there's YouTube compilations of all the times that we've listed stuff. Maybe one day, even if I have to make it myself.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe I'll make it. I don't know. I do say that I'm going to make a lot of projects that involve you, and then I don't.
Just don't do the projects. Just don't invite me.
Well, no, I start them, and then I don't finish them. I'm talking about Jumanji.
That's the only project. Jumanji was our
Yeah.
start. And
Alrighty. So thank you very much for coming to the first episode of After Dark. Katie, do you have anything you want to say?
thanks for listening. If you want, you can check us out on our social medias. Gonna list those.
I guess Life in Technicolor _pod. We'll be posting on there. We'll also be posting on, I don't know the name for it yet because I haven't made it yet. I didn't know if you wanted to make it or what, but
A name that is yet to be decided for right now. Just follow the Life in Technicolor social media, and then
follow our personals and we'll update you there too. But
send you a personal DM with our new username.
You could also email us at litafterdark21@gmail.com if you feel like doing that. Send us whatever you want, your own scary stories, your scary stories that you want to hear, topics you want us to cover, nudes, anything like that you could send to us.
Say news?
I said news.
Yeah, news. That's what you said, news.
I totally said news. This is going to be in like a compilation in like 10 years. And it's gonna be like Gunnar Glenn, the next Shane Dawson, ? No. And then they're gonna be like, keep in mind, Katie had just turned 18 after you said this. Like,
I've been 18 for like a little bit.
Yeah, I know. They're gonna try to paint it like that.
Chuck E. Cheese.
They're vicious out there, man.
Okay, I need to go.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
Have a good night, guys.
You too. David's behind you.
Shut the fuck up! I swear.
Don't cuss on here.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm really freaked out for this whole David thing.
I'm leaving that in. I hope that's okay. I'm leaving that in. I hope your mom doesn't listen to it and get mad.
I don't think she'd care. Have a good night, guys. Stay scary.
Stay scary. I love that. Be nice to each other. All right. Bye.
Bye.